Welcome to another NUCIDA training session to get more familiar with Xray. We can start talking about what exactly are the parameters which we can have a look onto. So, opening the issue will give me a quick view of the test interface, and we have known this from our previous tutorials that how to write a test case, and it just needs to interact with the test details window where you would find the steps to write your test cases. But this time we will be writing test cases once again, but with respect to the kind of parameters where we don't have to hard code the value, but we will run the test through different set of values which we can make use of from the datasets provided. So right here in the test details view, if you remember, we have added the steps using this option right here in the Xray, but now it's time for us to click on the data set where we can declare our parameters and define the required set of repository values, which we would be looking forward to using in our script. So, click on data set here, and this should allow me to create a parameter. Let's create our very first parameter. Assume that this test will be for username and password to check a particular login page. I will just call it out as username, and I'll use the type as text. We'll talk about the list a little later, so we will use the text type here and click on create. I got my very first parameter there, and let's create another one, and I'll call it out as the password, which is going to be the second set of value which I want to run with. And in case you are interested to add even the parameters for the result page, you can in fact do this just for an instance to show you an example. I'll also be using this to a certain extent just to show you that how exactly parameters can be used in expected result too. It's time for us to add more values to each parameter, because right now we just created a parameter, and it does not have any value defined for it. For example, my username is hello, and the second part username is hello1 or hello2, whatever it is. And then I would say, for example, hell right now when I'm trying with a valid combination here, right, I would say the password which I'm looking for is admin, and here I'm trying with admin1, and here I'm trying with, let's say, for example, admin@1. Now, given that my first test is having only the valid inputs, I'm expecting a different outcome, and I can even iterate my results accordingly. I would say here valid, and then I'll say here invalid. And here I should say invalid again. Now the point is, if I want to quickly publish some results from my database which could be hard-coded in terms of the output which we are expecting from the application, we can publish our results in the parameter form as well. Now that's it. Let's click on save here, and we are ready to get started with writing our test cases right from here. So, click on the new button and define the new step here, and the new step. Enter the username as, and use the $key to start using your parameters which you have defined. I will use your username. If you want, you can enter this value in the data table in the relevant data column, or you can just use the action column to define the parameter content in parallel within the test step maintenance, right? So, expected result is the username. You can just say username is valid, so I'll use there @result, right? So, this is my first type. If you want to write it in a very kind of, specific way, for example, you can say then right here enter the password @result. This is going to be password, and my results would remain same. That is the login, so it just depends on the way you write your test case. If you're going by step or writing everything together, then you would say here, click on login button, which makes more sense, right? So, this completes my iteration or process. Like there are 3-step process. I can just put them together here and put it in the bulleted list or numbered list, which makes more sense. And I'm ready with my first test, right? So, this is how I can make use of parameters in my test case instead of using hard-coded values, and I can define this like every single iteration. For example, when I run this for 3 times, you will see the real value during the execution. Right now, I would see only the parameter names, so it's just limited to that. The second thing what we can do here is when we come to the data set, we can even provide information from the point of list. Now, list is something which you think you want to randomize or probably make use of it from a particular aspect. For example, let's create a parameter here, right, and I would say the name is equal to, say, for example, fly from city, and instead of using text I'm using the list here, and I would provide the list items, for example Mumbai, Dubai, Singapore, or maybe any other place which you are interested in. For example, I could say London or Chennai, right? I'll just place Chennai now and click on create. So, this is an ad hoc list. You can decide right here at the iteration which value you want to use. Again, the parameters are not hard-coded. Otherwise, I get the options to define what should I use in each combination. For example, here I want to use Singapore, here I want to use maybe Chennai, and sort of thing. The point is the list parameter is already having the prefixed values, which we defined, and for each iteration of the test along with the text values which we have provided, we can decide which value would you like to run with and run the iterations. The list option and text options work something similar what we have just seen right now. But the scenario could vary accordingly. You have a data pool with you. You have certain pool of information, you can just put it accordingly on that window. And it will take it from there, right? So similarly, if you want to continue creating more parameters, you do have provisions to make use of the name of the field. Again, like for example you want to check the price if you're talking about testing a particular application. So, instead of saying price, you could say like I want to test color of a particular product. And combinatorial is used to combine multiple things there, right? I will say list here again and I would list the items. Okay, not the list, gives it as text. Let's create this. And here is my option comment Arial parameter, and I'll provide some colors here. For example red, I would say blue. And I would say, or let's keep it just red and blue. You say for example for a particular product you just have two colors available with you, and I'm creating another one. And I would say for example assume that this is a kind of automotive and I'm using transmission type, right, and I would say combinatorial again and click on create, right. Pairwise technique here very well in the Xray, and I would say transmission type is either manual or automatic or semi-automatic, right. Now, if I come here and say try or generate all combinations, click on this and you would be able to see all the combinations defined here, right. If you see now, I have got color option. With this combination, so red tried with all three tests and blue tried with all three tests. So, we initially created three set of parameters or three iterations of data. Now, we gave the global parameters that use color red and blue. Xray shows me all the combination which are possible, and red is being tried with all three iterations as well as blue is being tried with all three combinations. Similarly, if I want to combine transmission type on top of it, they will have further combinations. Look at this. If I just say confirm, and this is my list of all possible combinations. Now, manual being tested with both the colors, right. 3 iterations of each, so 3 iterations with red manual, 3 iterations with blue manual, 3 iterations with red automatic, 3 iterations with blue automatic, and similarly 3 iterations red semi-automatic, or 3 iterations blue semi-automatic again. So, kind of what I'm trying to say is, now, if I must run this test, I'll be having 18 iterations of this test just to try the possible combinations of parameters which you want to pass. Now, this is where the overall parameter inputs can be defined and can be used at any point of time. So, if you want to save this and just continue back on your screen and you would like to create a new test, all you must do is define the parameter name and make use of it. Just for an instance, if I, for example, say that, I would write enter the departure city as and I'll put the fly from parameter. Also enter the arrival city and this will be my flight. Oh, sorry, didn't I put that? Okay, no worries. So, kind of like I forgot to add another parameter. But yeah, that should be fine because we just want to tell, in this, for example, in this country, you have tried fly from a flight to maybe number of passengers. So, we just tried combining multiple different scenarios together. Just to show you the best utilization of the parameters in Xray. We included a basic set of parameters like text, we used list, and at the same time we used combinatorial parameters by combining them with your existing iterations. If you just don't want to use the existing iterations, then this is where you can just ignore the 3 different rows of data like these 3 iterations. Generally, when it comes to the execution, use combinations. Or you use the tree information, right? But there's no harm in the scenario what you're looking at where we have some hardcore information like this and on top of it, we wanted to combine with another set of data. The point is, I just gave you the best applicable scenario, which you can have from any application, right? You can have some standard text-based and you can have some drop-downs. Besides of that, you can have some combinatorial. The overall set of test cases can be prepared for you and all I must do is import this test and run it in the scenario. Happy testing and see you next time.